up, everybody? You are listening to the Banter Club. And in this exclusive Women's Month episode, we are being hosted by the lovely Dineo Modise, who's going to be talking to us about the impact of women in sports media and how they're holding it down in the arena. And also just reminding us that a woman's place is wherever the hell she wants it to be. So make sure you stay tuned.
Welcome to the Banter Club.
Welcome to the Banter Club. My name is Dineo Modise, and I am on loan for the month of August, here to bring you Women in Sports special edition right here on the Banter Club. And in this episode, I am surrounded by extraordinary women in sports media. I have Radio 2000 sportscaster Ntabi Mamabolo, Bebe Tumukwena, who is also a sportscaster and social media blogger, journalist Celine Abrahams, and G-Sport for Girls newsroom and social media manager, and Sinenhlanhla Ngwenya, who is a sports writer as well. And thank you, ladies, for joining me. I'm just going to give you guys an opportunity to fully introduce yourselves in case I haven't given a thorough description of what it is that you do within the sports industry. Starting with you, Ntabi.
I think you did a good job in explaining what I do. But I'm basically a sports anchor on Radio 2000. I anchor sports on the Weekend Breakfast Show. That's every Saturday and Sunday. And I'm a woman in sport advocate. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much for joining us, Ntabi. And then moving on to Bebe Tumukwena. Welcome to the Banter Club.
Thank you, Dineo. I'm Dorothy Pebeti Mukwena. I am a social media blogger. I write about sports, and that's what I love most of the times, and freelancing with a few media houses as well.
Great to have you with us, Pebeti. And Celine?
Thank you so much for having me this evening. I'm Celine Abrams. I am G-Sport's newsroom and social media manager. I create content on a daily basis for G-Sport, and I edit as well for G-Sport. So yes, I am kind of an all-rounder for G-Sport for girls.
Thank you so much for joining us as well, Celine. And last but not least, we have Sinenhlanhla.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Yes, as you've just said, my name is Sinenhlanhla Ngwenya, and I am a sports journalist. I've just come out of school, so I'm fresh out of the box, and I write sports. And I also am a sportscaster at Trans Africa Radio on Monday mornings. There's a show that I run there, co-hosted there on Monday mornings for the breakfast show. So yeah, pretty exciting being here and to hear all these lovely ladies who have all this experience in the same field.
Thank you so much, ladies, for introducing yourselves. And again, thank you for joining us here on the Banter Club. And let's start by putting women on the spotlight. In sports, we're all gathered here to engage on the conversation around sports and the various roles that we play as well in the sports industry. And Celine, I'm going to bring you in here first, as we recently got news about the Junior Hockey Women's World Cup that will be hosted in December in Potchefstroom, that is Northwest University, the under-21 women's hockey team that will be participating there. Can you give us a bit more information on what is going to be happening there? How many nations will be hosting perhaps, and just when it will be taking place?
Yes, so in December, as you mentioned, the Junior Hockey World Cup will be held. And obviously it's just incredible to see African countries come together just to give the youngsters an opportunity to showcase themselves. I think it's very important that we have these junior tournaments going on, especially in Africa. Our development phase is still, on the rise if you compare us to the rest of the world. And definitely this will be an opportunity for the likes of South Africa, Zimbabwe, and other countries that do come into the competition, just to give us an opportunity to rise and to challenge ourselves and see where we stand, just on the African continent. And this will definitely pave the way to ensure that when we do, the African countries do go and play in global tournaments, they have reached a certain level. So it's really incredible. And especially during this time, we are in such, with the COVID-19 pandemic, everything is so uncertain that it's incredible that organizers have been able to put this tournament together. So it's really just exciting to see this happening, and I'm looking forward, to bringing more coverage on the tournament and making sure that we give our ladies an opportunity, especially the rising stars, an opportunity to put their names out there.
I absolutely agree with you there, Celine. It is a great moment, to be able to see that the young generation of hockey players have something like that to witness within our country as well, and to see our players as well really raising the South African flag quite high in that regard.
Definitely. And also just to bring in the situation of when you look at our South African, the hockey, the national team, the senior national team, obviously this is a great platform for them to also look at, who to bring in for the next generation. We look at, they went to the Tokyo, 2020 Olympics, and this is something that they can go back and look and say for the future, for World Cup tournaments, for Olympics. They now have the structure to go back to say we do have, something going on at the junior ranks and get players from there.
And I want to bring in Pebezi and Sinenhlanhla into this conversation as well. As sports writers, when we get information about sporting events like this, I just want to get from your side, how do you guys as writers, try to ensure that you guys still share the same kind of information that is being put out there, but in a different way? I'm starting maybe with you, Pebezi, and then on to Sinenhlanhla.
When we write this kind of information, you get to go out there and find out what is it that is happening, and then you have to find out more information as to which players are injured, and then get more information about the team. Mostly, you have to have a bit of a background of that team that you'll be writing about, so that when you write, you have to know what is it that mostly, at which angle you have to look at in most cases, so that people could understand what is it that you are writing about most of the times.
Yes, that's quite true. Knowing about injured players as well is something that's quite important, because it allows people to know what to expect, those that follow, and also those that don't really follow, but to know the kind of impact that would have on the team to have specific players injured, etc.
Yes.
And Sinenhlanhla, your thoughts as well on that?
Yes, I definitely agree with your favorite thought. But I just wanted to add on what she was saying was that if you were to go and report on an event or tournament like that, it's a big one, and it's so interesting because I used to play hockey in high school as well, so I definitely enjoyed to do something like that. Definitely looking for talking points. So like as she mentioned, things like background checks, so you do your own research in the background, which is what happened a few years back, like history on the teams or the sports or the players that will be taking part, just to grab it now in the beginning, especially because the junior team is not that well known at the moment. So just to grab those talking points, just to grab those talking points and have the people or the readers find out a little bit more about the teams that will be taking part, the players, the coaches, that gritty information, all those details. I think that's very fun stuff. And of course, the angle that we're going to be looking at as well. And from there, it will be easy to just run with it all the way up until the end.
And also what I think is important to kind of lure readers in is especially targeting, let me say, people that don't necessarily follow sports, because that's something that I'm also very big on, trying to get people that don't really follow sports to still get into sports and educate themselves about what is happening. So then you get this opportunity to kind of bring them in by providing them with the information that they need, your players, your coaches, the background, etc., so that when they see competitions being broadcasted or being advertised, then they actually do kind of have information on what is happening. Because I think that's the one thing that sometimes discourages people from watching sports, because they don't understand or they don't know what is happening, whether it's a single player or the rules or the regulations of the game. That's something that many people kind of fall back on when it comes to supporting sports. So when you have the likes of yourselves writing and providing people with information, then it makes or it helps us grow the community of people who are focusing and just absorbing and appreciating what athletes are doing within sports.
Absolutely. Just a few days ago, I actually had a conversation with a friend of mine, and he had no idea. Like he mixed up what hockey and soccer was. He thought it was somewhat similar. So I explained to him that no, the sports are completely different. You know, the rules and like the game plans and everything. So explaining those kinds of things will also be very, very important to the players so that they can kind of get the gist of what the whole thing is about.
I fully agree with you there. It helps people so much in that regard. And I was hoping to get Ntabi into the conversation, but I think she may have left. But then just to go back to Celine, Celine, something that I wanted to point out, as we've been talking about where the Junior Hockey Women's World Cup will be hosted, that is at Northwest University. Northwest University have really been a good point of the growth of women's sports, if I can say, because they've hosted the Ilanaya Closed International, that is the ITF World Tennis Tour earlier this year. They also had Banyana coach Desiree Ellis, who hosted a workshop for the local Sasol League coaches, and now they're going to be hosting again the women's hockey, the Junior Hockey Women's World Cup. So I just want to get your thoughts on how important it is to have communities supporting women's sports in the way that the Northwest University has been supporting women's sports in our country.
Honestly, I, hands up and for Northwest, just for getting the community together and, backing women's sports. When you look at the universities, and I'll just make this, a general view, that most of our universities in South Africa, they are coming on board, in terms of supporting the women athletes. And this is, from each department in their sporting fraternity. And it's incredible to see that because if you look a few years ago, it wasn't the same as what it is now. And to look at and to see it growing, to see the sports department, especially the female department, growing as it is at the moment, it's encouraging because we know that with the standards and with their high performance centers, all of that will, that development is important because that will help an athlete and to make sure that going forward, they are becoming national athletes. They're flying the flag for South Africa, whether it is at the Olympics or the World Championships. So it's incredible to see, Northwest especially, just to see how they have come together. And as you said, communities coming together. It's really important, especially from rural development, that we all chip in. We all have some type of experience. We know, especially if you're coming from a sporting background, you understand the game, you understand certain aspects. So volunteering is something that I think is very important in that aspect when you're looking at community getting involved. So volunteering is something that is very vital. And yeah, I think, just looking at communities coming together to make sure that women's sport is on the rise, it's really encouraging to see it. And I'm really happy that each year it's growing, that bar is being raised.
Absolutely, because, it gives people something to anticipate within that community every single time. You know that there's always something that's going to happen, or always something that is coming their way. So they've created this culture, if I can say or put it like that, where they are the sports hub in the province. And we know that the very best of the best can come from that specific area.
That is so true. And we've seen so many athletes, coming from university level and going on to achieve such great things. I mean, Tatiana Schoonmaker is a perfect example coming from Tuks, to go and win a gold at the Olympics and break a world record. I mean, that is something that wouldn't have happened if we didn't have communities coming together and universities actually investing in women athletes. So I think it's examples like that that we need to ensure that we make that it's happening in especially school. It's not only universities. I think we should actually bring it down, and something that needs to be invested from actually school level, primary school level, where the young girls have that opportunity. I mean, there were times that when we were in school, we didn't have opportunities that young girls are getting now. So I think, if we don't only need to look at university level, we can actually bring it down to school level, that investment needs to be made from that, from that level.
Fully agree with you there. And I'm going to bring Snenhlanhla in, as you mentioned that you're fresh out of school, just to get your thoughts on some of the vital developmental programs or any initiatives that have been put in place, be it school level or at varsity level, that you can perhaps share with us, be it your varsity cup or anything amongst those.
Yes, that's true, right? I like talking about these things because it's very encouraging when I see it. So just recently, I just finished degree, and I used to watch the varsity sports, and I remember this one time I actually watched a hockey game, and I was so excited, and I saw all the attention that the girls were getting. It was even so professional, the whole appearance, and that evening will always remain in my heart because I'm thinking, if we just carry on with this pace, it will get so big because those girls were so good, and that's what I really just wanted to hope for future. And as now that the World Cup is here in South Africa, the more attention that we grab and we realize that these girls are good. I watched them; they are so good. I was like, if only someone else could see how worth it is to sit down and actually invest in them, like get proper turfs for them, astroturfs for them, like proper kits for them, because they are good. So it's not just like that thing. It was we're just watching, but you're actually watching and entertaining games. So that's what I saw when I watched. I used to follow the varsity hockey as well, and I remember also she just I forgot. I'm sorry, I forgot it. Oh, Celine. Yes, she just mentioned the communities coming together. I got an opportunity to also go back home to just watch some of the hockey tournaments there, and the communities literally were united into just finishing at a small town derby between two high schools, and it was so professional. The girls looked good, the kids were professional, the fields, the astroturfs in the rural towns. It was interesting to see that they have an astroturf there as well. And the girls were very confident of their skill. And I got some talk around also that some of them were even like progressing to the professional stages as well. And it wasn't just only school. So such initiatives really do help because it's worth it, if I could just say it straightforward and bluntly. So it's really worth it. Not something that is worth investing in, because they could go out and end up representing like the senior team, and we need those fresh legs to carry on and take our country forward. So this is a great step forward, yeah.
And just to add a little interest point, if I may say, I'm gonna just ask you ladies each to basically give I don't know if I should say a sporting background of the communities where you guys are from. Example, if you are from a specific place, if you know of a hockey team or a cricket team or a football team that is well known in your community, just to give an opportunity to shed spotlight, or to give a little bit of background of where you guys are, looking at the fact that you guys are women in sports media. Some of us have been influenced by the environments that we actually grew up in. Even if perhaps you may have not been influenced by a team within your environment, but perhaps even a team that you watched on television, perhaps. So I'm going to start with you, Celine. If you can just let us know maybe where you're from, and then any team that you can let us know about where you're from.
So I'm from a very small town in KwaZulu-Natal called Eshowe. It's in northern KZN. So definitely, looking at community-wise, our schools, you have Eshowe High School, Sunnydale High School, they are investing there, just netball, football, and to see them, from school level, as I spoke about earlier, that it's important that we, invest from school level in our athletes. And just to see those two high schools, I mean, they are the only two like really well-known high schools from my area. So they have, the financial backing. They and they can invest, in their athletes. So it's really incredible just to see from my days in being in school, and to see how they've grown, in the more on the sports side, and balancing the academics as well. So it's really incredible just to see how those two high schools have backed the youngsters and giving them hope, for the future, that there is a sporting career for them, and taking them, to developments such as Amazulu Football Club, just giving them that opportunity. I think is really incredible. And I've seen some of the guys that I school with, both guys, girls and males. So I've seen them go into, netball teams. I've seen them go into rugby. So it's really incredible just to see those two high schools investing in their athletes.
That's quite interesting to hear, Celine. Thank you for sharing that with us. Bebeti, can you perhaps let us know which community you are from, and any sporting team that you would like to shed some spotlight on?
Oh yeah, thank you, Dineo. I'm here in Limpopo, basically around Polokwane. So what I can say is, when I the spotlight, like I love football, I love basketball. Most of my times I spend it on softball and basketball, and I get to see how passionate they pitch, they dunk, and it's quite interesting how they support each other, each and every team that is there, and I just love how they play, and everybody's is just there for everyone whenever they play. And currently, when the season is about to start, this side, yes, softball, I'm just happy because it's been a while, been waiting for softball to come back this season, and as well as basketball is already in the run, and soon enough they'll be done with the senior Sundays teams, and it's very hectic if you see how this ladies dunk, how they pitch. They're on the run.
Very interesting to share with us there, Pebeti. Thank you so much. And Tabi, can you perhaps share with us your the community that you're from and the sports team that you would want to share with us?
I really wish I had a positive something to say, but like Pebeti, I'm also from Polokwane, and geez, for me it's very difficult and tricky because growing up and playing hockey, the first time I was, exposed to an AstroTurf was when we went to IPT games. And it speaks a lot to the development that we have in the area and how much it's taken seriously or the lack thereof. We look at how our teams, let me just talk about the DSTV Premiership. Our teams struggle, you know what I mean? Year in, year out, season in, season out. We have teams from that side of the province battling relegation, fighting to stay in the top flight. And for me, it becomes a bit worrisome because also when you look at the national teams, how many people do we have from that side who actually go on to represent the country in the respective sporting codes? So for me, I'm not sure where I stand with that. I just feel like a lot needs to be done, especially from that side, because there is a lot of talent, but it's not nurtured and it's not exposed enough.
And we'll come back to the topic about development within the conversation as we engage in Tabi. But thank you for sharing as much as you could. Snentlantla, on to you if you can share with us.
I'm laughing because Celine right now just mentioned that she's from Eshawe, and I'm from the same area, Vryheid, Northern Cape and Ed. And when I was in high school a couple of years ago, we actually went to the same school to play tournaments for the first teams, netball, hockey, and rugby. And I remember it so well. So I'm pretty excited to hear that she's from that side. She's Pella. Guess we'll see some Kyle, So she's just a sister of mine. Yeah. So, anyways, just the team to run over. Definitely, my blood is green from grade 8 up until now. Freight High School, I still say they play the best hockey I've ever seen. We've got rivals though from Freight. Two teams, Puny High School. Those are two teams to look up for in that region. So yeah.
Thank you, ladies, so much for sharing that. With us, the information that you guys have shared about your communities and where you guys are from, and the fact that some of you guys are actually from the same area. And if you guys would also allow me to also share with you guys a bit about my community as well, where I grew up, that is in Rustenburg. So I think one of the biggest highlights or the biggest teams that anyone from Rustenburg would probably tell you about is Platinum Stars, which has formerly known as Platinum Stars, now known as Cape Umoya FC. So yes, the history behind that team, it was bought from Polokwane, and then they moved to Rustenburg, and then they basically played in the PSL as Platinum Stars. And then unfortunately they got relegated, and also they had to relocate. I think you guys know the story. They had to move all the way to the Western Cape. So that was something really tragic. Also another topic similar to this one that we will get to engage on as we continue with the conversation. But the whole sadness behind losing a team that supplied a community with development. And I speak on development in terms of football, because we had youngsters within the community as well who would play for the Platinum Stars development team, who had aspirations of course, playing for the senior team, which would then give them a gateway in, something that, is kind of sad to have to that we no longer have that in the championship that is representing the Northwest. But yes, that's a bit about my community. And yeah, I grew up actually going to not grew up, I was around high school. So that's when I would go around, supporting the team because, it was our home team and everything. So losing that team has kind of the Rustenburg community has kind of lost that whole football atmosphere, going to the stadium feeling. But yeah, it's football and sports as we know it. So just continuing with our conversation, ladies, I'd like to bring Ntabi into this conversation. We recently had the AFCON 2021 draw, and looking at the group that South Africa is in, up against Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya. What are your thoughts about this group that South Africa is in? I think we just lost Ntabi. So as we wait for her to reconnect with us, maybe perhaps let's just talk about the importance of sponsorship that is within women's sports. Celine, maybe if I can start with you in here, how important sponsorship plays a role within women's sports. I think you're someone that can actually give a whole lot of information on this, based on the brand that you do work for, that is G-Sport. So just your thoughts on how important sponsorship really is.
Wow, I think I need to gather myself on that one because I could speak the whole night about sponsorship. Sponsorship is really, really vital in that it gives women courage and makes you want to work for what you're doing. I mean, already the passion is there. Okay, we know that we want to be in sport. Okay, if I look at from an athlete side, you want to be in sport, but there's no financial backing. So if you look at you're not getting a professional contract, so that means you got no benefits. So your career is you literally relying on a stipend that is given to you for every game that you play. That at some point you're gonna have to your career is not gonna go anywhere because you are not getting any value, in terms of from a financial aspect. So you are juggling going to training, you're juggling probably a 9-to-5 job just to sustain yourself, to make sure that you are able to pay your bills. So you're not like 100% focusing on your career. So which means if you play for a national team, that national team is not going to be at their highest and their best of their ability because you can't fully put yourself to be there all the time. So when you have a backing of a sponsor who's coming on board, who's allowing to give those professional contracts. If you look at the Momentum Proteas, for example, Momentum has been backing the South African women's cricket team, and they have given professional contracts. If you look at all those players, they are professional athletes, they're professional cricketers. They do not, yes, they might have a degree in a doctor's degree or something, but they are not, in that industry at the moment. They are focusing on their professional sporting career because they can afford to do it because of a Momentum backing them and paying them a salary at the end of the month. So I think just in terms of sponsors coming on board, they need you need that corporate backing to ensure that our athletes can focus 150% on their careers and not have a 9-to-5 job and juggling the two.
I definitely agree with what you said there. Sponsorship is so important. It plays a really, really, really big role within women's sports. And as you said, most of them having to work a 9-to-5 and not getting the full opportunity of actually being a full-time athlete. So it does really play a big role. And Bebe, if I can maybe pull you into this conversation and ask you if there was any sports or women's sports that you could give a sponsorship to, you feel deserve sponsorship and really, really need sponsorship, which sports would that be?
I think basketball,
Yes.
Rugby, the local ones, rugby, cricket. I know the national teams, they have got enough sponsors, but the provincial ones, they still need all that. Softball, rugby, basketball. There's a lot. I can say a lot. And can I say something in terms of what you asked Celine about the role that sponsorship plays? Because what I've realized is that most players, most athletes, they just don't take what they are doing seriously. In most of the cases, they do take it serious, but the more the rankings that you have in your sporting code, the more sponsors you attract towards your career, and you won't have to depend only on the money that you'll be getting from your team, but as well as the money that the sponsors that they would have seen how dedicated and how how truthful you are to your work that you are doing as an athlete.
Very well said, Bebeti. Because in sports as we know it, it is kind of, a bit unfair to find that women would be doing exactly the same thing that their counterparts would be doing, but without getting the same compensation. And now I think it's safe to say that we're moving towards that direction where women are getting the recognition, number one, that they deserve. And now women's sports again is also attracting sponsorship. People are now realizing that women really are performing at the level that they have been performing in the various sporting codes. And Snentlantla, also to bring you in again to ask the same question, any sporting code that you feel deserves sponsorship within women's sports?
I definitely say that the junior teams that I've noticed, I think they do need a bit more sponsorships. Things like the soccer teams, some of the rugby teams, some of the lady rugby teams. That actually really touches me the most, because when I watched, I actually paid attention to know the quality of the clothing is not really impressive. The uniform is baggy. It looks like a kid that was taken from, another team. Wear this, it did look nice. I'd say the local teams really do need some sponsorships, because the ladies teams especially. So that's, I'd say the netball, not the netball, I mean the rugby, the football, the cricket as well. And Upebet also mentioned the basketball as well, because the basketball is also pretty good. Local teams, basically. Yeah, they really we need to also pay attention to them as well. Yeah.
And I think this is where then we can start the conversation on development. The fact that we need more sponsorship or more funding to be allocated to the developmental programs of sporting codes in our country.
Yeah, that's true. Because I mean, if we start taking care of them now, like Celine just said, that it's something that you'd like to invest in, because they are going to grow up into like future professionals, or not even future professionals, but looking forward to taking their careers further into national teams. And if they start enjoying or appreciate being appreciated now, and that you'll see better performance, you'll see they will improve, and people will even pay Bambana and notice, because actually this is something that you can watch as well. I won't lie, there are some teams that when you look at the team, wow, this team looks proper. Even you see it if you compare to two teams. With this one, they know what they're doing. The skill looks proper. They don't just kick the ball, but they've been taught, how do you stand over the ball and everything. Where do your eyes, where you should look and everything. Whereas another team where they just say, just play the game. Sometimes talent will take you far, but you do need to develop and sit down and explain that game to a young person. This is the reason why we do it like this. Don't worry, you can come tomorrow. You're going to have a nice pair of togs. You can run and play your game comfortably. So things like that really do make a difference. Yeah.
I do agree. They really do make a difference. And just to bring in Ntabi as well into this, Ntabi, we're talking about development and sponsorship in women's sports, just to get your thoughts as well on that, and how the two, being development and sponsorship, play a role or a significant role in women's sports.
Geez, guys, sorry, my network's a bit bad, but it's good to be back. I think for me, it's very important for local federations to be in constant communication and to know what is going on with different athletes from a primary school level, because we look at what's happening in Europe, and those people are developed and trained from a very young age, and at 19 they're already doing wonders. And in South Africa, we call a 25-year-old a youngster. No, they're not. sport is it's a short-term career. And if you're going to peak at 25, by the time you're 30, you're already ready to retire. And what have you done in the 5 years? So it's very important to, have everybody come on board to understand that development is very important. And this is a conversation we have probably day in, day out, but we don't really see much happening in that regard. I agree with Usnenhlanhla when she spoke of, the teams and sporting codes that need to be sponsored and whatnot. Sponsorship gives you a certain level of motivation as an athlete. You wake up knowing that, oh my gosh, I've got a kit ready, I've got water ready, I don't have to worry about anything. All I need to do is deliver. But I can't deliver while I'm stressed. I don't know how I'm getting to the game. I don't know what I'm going to wear. I'm probably going to have to have somebody lend me the boots, for the first half of the game because I'm starting and they're on the bench. That on its own throws you off. And you're like, oh my gosh, after this, we're back to square one. It's very unfair because we expect athletes to deliver while we're not supporting them. We only support them when they represent the country and they do well. But how many of those do we have?
You're quite right.
I just feel like a lot more needs to be done. And yeah.
A whole lot needs to be done. Just from the laugh I could hear.
A lot more needs to be done, and it's going to take a lot of people to come on board and not to just recognize and realize and celebrate athletes when they're doing well. It goes a long way back.
And you're highlighting a very important factor that we don't just want to acknowledge athletes when they are doing well. That's not how we're supposed to be going about it. We're supposed to be encouraging and inspiring youngsters, even when they're young, when they're starting for the first time, from their first exposure. The same energy that we give them from that first encounter with a sporting code is the same energy we should give them when they are collecting accolades and doing quite well. You shouldn't just want to support and give recognition once someone has made it, if I may put it in that manner. Give them the support and recognition so that they know that, or they can feel that what they are doing is basically the right path that they are in, and basically to inspire and to keep motivating the next generation.
That's true. Talent will only get you to a certain point, but there's more that an athlete requires just besides the talent part of it.
Yes, absolutely. Fully agreeing there with you there, Ntabi. And before we had missed you earlier on, I was asking a question with regards to the AFCON 2021 draw that has seen a Bafana with Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya. I'm not sure if that is correct, but just wanted to get your thoughts on what you think the group that Bafana has been placed in looks like.
Jeez, Bafana. It's going to be a bit tricky, but also we need to remember that Hugo, the coach, is new in the position, and it's really going to be tricky. And we've seen how our national team has played in the past, but obviously we don't want to judge them on, past results. But I think that's a starting point. But let's give support and hope in our coach and hope for the best.
I like the fact that you mentioned that we shouldn't judge them on what has happened in the past, and that the coach can only do his best.
That's true. He can only do his best, but his best is it needs to be supported by everybody. It goes back to support. It goes back to, the players he put on the pitch. It goes back to his technical team. It goes back to, the SAFA supporting him and supporting his dream and his vision, because they put him there for a reason.
Absolutely. He's there for a reason. He's there to play a specific role So he will get the job done.
Hopefully, we hope so.
Fingers crossed. So, and just before we wrap things up, I just want to interject with Celine to speak on one of the biggest sporting awards in our country. That is the G Sports Awards. And that is, of course, Ntabi is excited because she is the 2-time Woman in Radio finalist. And Celine, you guys are just... That is actually a round of applause to you, Ntabi, for the amazing work that you have been doing within the radio industry, shedding the spotlight on women's sports, doing what you do.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
And Celine, I just wanted to get a bit more information from you, or just to give the listeners a bit more information about the awards that are upcoming. Looking at the presenter squad that has recently been announced, we have the host, which is Modise Muhono. You have your flash interview host, which is Hloni Ntumkulu, Cindy Poluta, who will be welcoming all the VIP guests on the VIP red carpet, and Joe Prince, who's going to be keeping the audience entertained and glued to their social media pages, and Itumileng Banda as the voice of God for the awards, taking place at the end of the month on the 31st of August. What a massive way to close up Women's Month. Celine, can you just let us know a bit more of what we can expect at the G Sport Awards?
Yeah, you just said that list, of our presenters, but I just saw fire. Honestly, we have incredible women that are leading the awards this year, and I'm so excited, just to know that every woman that has been chosen for their presenter squad have won at the G Sport Award stage. So it's incredible to see that G Sport not only just recognizes you for that night when you win an award, but you know that there's an opportunity for you in the future to actually work with it for the awards or to work for G Sports. So it's really incredible just to see how the brand is giving back to all the women. And yeah, just looking forward to the night, 31st of August on Super Sport Variety 4 at 8 o'clock. We're just going to see a night of glitz and glamour and an opportunity, just for us to celebrate women. We work so hard, and especially now with being the COVID-19 pandemic, everything has been kind of turned upside down. But we've managed to make it work, and women have been excelling, since this COVID-19 pandemic has come around. So we've just grown. And so it just shows that, you put a woman and you put some challenges in front of her, she will conquer it, and she'll break those barriers. So just looking forward to celebrating women. And I always like to emphasize this to all our finalists, whether you are a winner or not, it doesn't, you should be excited, if you get that trophy or if you don't get the trophy. It just shows you made it to this point. So you've done well. This is us recognizing you, whether, you even to the nominees, the first initial list that went out. You made that list because people are watching you. So just continue doing what you're doing, and you're doing a great job. So just to everyone, for the 31st of August, we just look forward to celebrating you, honoring you, and giving you that extra encouragement and motivation to continue, breaking barriers and reaching the Apostles' Class ceilings.
And what I love so much about the awards, even though, the awards are what the finalists are looking forward to win. But other than that, it gives people also the opportunity to also just know more about women in sports. When they see that these women have been nominated as finalists, then their stories get to be told more. So it's not just about, collecting the accolades, but also sharing their stories, sharing their journey, and sharing their experience within the sports industry.
100%, you hit that one right on the nail on the head with that, because there's also, if you look at the different categories, you have your school sports stars, you have your emerging athletes. That's where we get to find, our rising stars. the next generation for our national teams. So and having them giving them this platform to share their story, it goes back to what we've been talking about, development and giving and shining the spotlight on our youngsters. So the awards is not just for your well-known, women in sport, both on and off the field, but it's also the up-and-coming stars, your volunteers who are doing, who are in, investing and taking time to own the youngster skills in the communities. So it's an all-round affair. We celebrate and honor everyone.
You've actually highlighted a category that I would say stood out the most to me, because when you read Volunteer of the Year, there's so many people that wouldn't actually take it upon themselves to volunteer whatever services it is that they're providing for the better or for the betterment of sports. So when you see that category, you realize that there are people that are out there that are doing what they are doing out of like pure, genuine love and passion for sports. And it also encourages other people not to, wait for opportunities, but to also just go out there and to basically offer whatever it is that you have or what you can do to contribute to that specific area.
Yes, certainly. I mean, if you look at Sandile Lukele in the Volunteer of the Year, and even your Supporters of the Year, they are going out of their way. I mean, they're taking money from their own pockets. You got teachers and chartered accountants who are actually going out of their way to ensure that they are going back into the rural, to communities, and making sure that whatever skills that they have learned from watching different sporting codes, that they're going and investing their time, investing their money to ensure that the youngsters have an opportunity, and to realize that we have these dreams and there are people around us or supporting us. So it's really encouraging when you have the likes of Selena Montami, Paul Makoba, who are doing such incredible work, in cricket and tennis, just to make sure that our young kids, their dreams are not doomed.
And have a lot to look forward to, and people that really are passionate about sports also have a lot to look forward to. Looking at the fact that you can volunteer and do whatever it is that you can to contribute, also to bring Pebeti in and Ntlantla again as sports writers. How or what would you say influenced you guys, Pebeti, starting with you, to actually start writing about sports?
Yeah, I would say what really influenced me to write about sports is the love that I had for sports all along. Like back in the days, I used to play netball, and I used to play volleyball at the same time. When I'm bored, I'm like, oh, today I'm playing netball. And then when I'm not selected in the netball squad, I'll be like, no, I'm going to play volleyball. And then if it doesn't work out in volleyball, I'll be going to play soccer. I'm like, yo guys, and then I'll play all those games. If it comes to push, I'll play in each and every team. If my school had to participate, but later on, when I grew up now, and then I'm like, okay, this is quite interesting. I get to see, get to witness a lot of school sports, your karate, your ladies doing your spinning. I'm like, oh, this is quite interesting. And then I get to see your ladies and your motorsports, and I get to say, okay, this is nice, this is interesting. And you get to see how the ladies are doing so well now, even regardless of the challenges that they are facing almost every day. But you get to encourage them. Your rankings matter the most. So yeah, that's what I get to say. with the influence from Caster as well, with the likes of Ramalepe doing all those things. So it's inspiration to some of us.
And Snenhlanhla, what inspired, or maybe perhaps who inspired you to start writing?
For me, it's quite similar. I used to play sports in high school. I was that girl who would play with the boys, fight on the road, Shama, one Bali, all of it. Cricket, one boy was quite gruesome playing rugby in the mud and stuff like that, but it was so fun. For me, it was from an age when I really started playing or experiments on certain sports. But what really kicked it off for me was the 2010 FIFA World Cup. I will never forget that year. I will never. So I was just impressed with how much media coverage can be focused on one small country at the bottom of Africa. Our own South Africa was big, and I was inspired by the media there. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. So it really started there for me, but also because I love writing. That's the one thing for me. So if I put two things that I love in one package, I'm your girl. I'm the happiest person in the world. So it's, man, I was speaking about, we could put it about this too. Yeah, but it really, for me, jump-started Kakulu in 2010, where I actually opened my eyes, and every news I had pictures of different soccer players. When I opened ETV, this is happening. Like, I was well at it before, and I liked it very much. So that's where my love for writing sports started. And yeah, just the sports itself. Seeing people, these people are fantastic. How can you do this? What you're this tiny and you jump up and do all these fantastic things? So it's really that from my side, yeah.
And speaking of the FIFA 2010 World Cup, you just reminded me of something that someone wrote. They said that the 2010 FIFA World Cup was the last time that we were happy as a country. I don't know if you would say that you agree with that, but I also do really remember that the atmosphere around the 2010 FIFA World Cup was exciting. So I would also agree and say that was like one of the times that I remember that as a country, we were really, really happy. But yes, with that being said, ladies, Ntabi, Pebetsi, Celine, Snenhlanhla, and from myself as well, Dineo. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining us here at the Banter Club as we put women on the spotlight in sports, and also in regards to the different roles that you guys partake in within the sports media in the Women in Sports special edition. It's been great engaging and conversating with you guys, and really enjoyed this session. Thank you guys for joining us. Oh, thank you, ladies, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
And
that was amazing.
Thank you. And that brings us to, yes, an amazing chat with amazing women who are doing amazing things. And like I said, from myself, Dineo, Modise, and the extraordinary ladies that we've had today, thank you for listening to this episode on the Banter Club, and we hope that you enjoyed the conversations that we had.
Celebrating inspirational, powerful, and incredible women, this is the Banter Club, SA's special edition of Women in Sport, hosted by Dineo Modise.
Subscribe on all our podcast platforms and YouTube at the Banter Club SA. Follow us on our social media platforms at the Banter Club SA.
Join us every week on the Banter Club.